Good afternoon, everyone. Chris Berryman here with a different edition of Humanity Happy Hour. I am not Carla Fedigan, but I am the coalition builder and founder of Bringing Humanity Together. I am Chris Berryman. This is going to be the mobile version of Humanity Happy Hour. Welcome, everyone, to the Bringing Humanity Together live stream. Today, we'll be talking about humanity in the workplace. And what we'll be talking about for what was brought to me by Carla when she gets on is about passion in the workplace. How can we bring our passion into the workplace? So, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a unique experience because, like I said, I'm actually going to be on the move today. And here's my other great friend and mentor and host of Share and Care with Sandy Chernoff. Hello, Sandy. How are you doing today?
Hi, Chris. I'm good, and I'm looking forward to this discussion because I'm sure it's going to be a good one. I enjoy these conversations. They're always engaging, interesting, and fun.
That they are. That they are. And
Yep.
like I said, I had to do the mobile version side of this because twofold. One, I had to go pick up my wife from work, and two, I'm gonna have to end up jumping off the call a little early because we have to talk to a friend. In fact, a friend of yours named Jason about websites.
Right. Jason.
So yes.
Good.
So we'll be talking to him about that.
Good. Glad to hear that. He's good, Chris, and he's, once he gets on top of this, it'll happen. Jason is reliable and he's good. I've known him for a long time. First time I met him, we actually met at the convention center downtown. It was really funny. We went out.
What was it? You guys, how'd you meet? I mean, was it at a
we met
convention?
we met on LinkedIn, but he decided that he wanted to meet in person. And I had to go to something at the convention center. He said, okay, well, I'll meet you down there. So we went down there and I met him at the convention center. That was kind of interesting. But that's okay. That's Jason. Where are you, Carla? Are you golfing? I decided not to golf today. It's too hot. So I told my daughter I wasn't going to golf. Well, I have had one bout of heat stroke, Chris, and I don't want to do this again. So I told her when it's too hot, I'm not golfing because the problem on the golf course is there's no shade. You're just out there in the sun. And I had a really bad bout. I was dizzy and I felt unsteady on my feet. And I was throwing up. Fortunately, all I had in my stomach was water, so that's all I was throwing up.
Wow.
But I really didn't feel well, and I didn't feel well all day. And I don't want to have another day like that if I don't have to, but it's
I would agree. I would agree.
Spending too much time in the hot sun because obviously it doesn't agree with me anymore. I mean, I told my daughter, I just have to accept the fact that I'm not as young as I used to be. And even though I think I can do all the things I used to do, obviously I can't. So you have to be a bit more careful. And, now that I'm in my 70s and approaching my mid 70s, you have to understand that your body doesn't work the same way anymore, sadly. So
that it does. It's like getting younger with age is like a fine wine, right?
But it just, I can still do a lot of things that I used to do when I was much younger. But this was something that totally caught me by surprise and caught me unawares because I just had no idea. And initially, I didn't know why I was feeling this way. But then when I started to feel like I had to throw up and everything else, I went, oh, yeah, I know what this is. It's heat stroke. So,
yeah.
And that was the day that I had to go for my biopsies. So it was a good thing I had arranged for Yale to take me because he dropped me right off at the front door and then he went and parked the car and then he came back in and walked me to radiology and he waited for me and walked me back to the car because I really didn't feel well all day. But It was one day, I was fine the next morning. But I'd rather not experience that again if I don't have to.
Oh, I agree. I agree. So let me ask you, Sandy, when it comes to passion into our workplaces, can we bring our passion into our workplaces every day and every way? How does that look like to you?
I don't see any reason why you can't. I think when people are passionate and have energy about what they're doing, Chris, it's contagious. You know, when you have high energy and you have passion about what you're doing, you draw people in. And when you draw people in, they're going to get more engaged. And if they're more engaged, then you have a far better chance of helping them with the things that we're trying to help them with. So it's just a matter of, and I think all of us are pretty passionate about this because most of us want to help people. We want to help these businesses. We want to help these employees. We want to help these business leaders who are struggling. And as long as they know that they're struggling, then there's no reason why we can't help them. It's just a matter of if they don't recognize that they've got a problem, there's nothing we can do because you really can't make somebody do something they don't want to do. Can't even make your kids do stuff they don't want to do most of the time. So you certainly can't make an adult do something they don't want to do. But if an adult realizes that they're struggling with something and they want to get some help to fix this, then that's 90% of the battle, Chris. And if we're passionate about helping them and, you know, definitely get that across to them, then they will allow us to help them in whatever way we possibly can. And then we have a far better chance of being successful. So, you know, and that's what we want to do. We want to make these new clients happy. And so first, as I said, the first thing we have to do with them is we have to listen specifically to what it is that's making them unhappy. And, you know, we need to make some notes and listen carefully. And then we need to offer them different elements to put into the program, whether it's a coaching program or it's a workshop kind of thing, where we are providing them with the right strategies and approaches and skills that will help them to overcome whatever it is they're struggling with. But we need to know specifically what it is. And that's why we have to have a conversation and we have to listen very carefully to what it is they tell us so that we can then offer them different things that will address those specific issues, whatever they may be. Because doing generic programs doesn't help. We need to know because, you know, you won't touch on some of the things that are necessary for them. I mean, for example, stress management. I can do a stress management workshop, but if it doesn't address what's causing the person's stress, what are you doing? You know, it's not helpful. I need to know why they're stressed. Why are you stressed? What is causing you the stress? Oh, we almost had Lisa for a second. So, you know, if we know what it is, then we can provide them with different kinds of strategies to deflect it. Because it's very important that they have strategies to deflect their stress. Because stress is very harmful to human beings when it's long term. It can cause irreversible physiological damage. But if it's short term, it's one thing. And if you have strategies to deflect it and work around it, and even use some of it, like you can leverage some of that stress to give you focus and whatever, because you've got adrenaline and, you know, stuff going. But it's just a matter of understanding what's going on and learning what to do about it. And if people don't, they'll get very sick. And as I said to Lisa yesterday, you know, people who go on stress leave, Chris, sometimes they never come back. But when they do come back, they usually don't come back at the same level of ability and efficiency and creativity and, you know, all those kinds of things as they had before they went on stress leave. And they're more likely to have to go on stress leave again. So, you know, that's not really a spot that you want to put people in. They need to have an understanding of what's going on and how to deal with it appropriately so they don't get sick. And, you know, again, this is not rocket science. It's just a matter of having a look at what it is that's making you crazy. And then let's figure out some ideas that can push it away. You know, again, we don't have control over a lot of the things that happen in our lives. The only thing we have control over is our own attitude about things. So if we take on the attitude that we're going to be able to fix this and deal with this and move on, then we'll do it. But if you just let it take over your life, you're in deep doo-doo. I mean, you really and truly are. So we don't want people to have to go there. So
Absolutely. Hello, Lisa. How are you doing today?
she was there and then she disappeared. Where'd she go? She was there, honestly, for like 2 seconds. I just saw her face and then, oh, there she is. Yay.
Hi.
Hello, Lisa.
Hello. I'm doing good. I'm having trouble with my internet today.
Ah, okay.
Well, that darn internet, I swear.
It's annoying.
It can be sometimes.
Well, you know, Lisa, I look at technology in this way. When it's working, it's wonderful because, you know, there's so many things we can do when we have the technology. And when it's not, you just want to throw it out the window because it's so friggin' annoying.
Exactly. Exactly. So how are you guys doing today?
Oh, good. There's Carla. Yay.
Hi, Carla.
I tried to get in through Chris login and it didn't have any audio. I didn't want Chris to crash his car letting me in. I ended up having to go back to through the poor folks route through LinkedIn.
All right, very good, very good. So as we've been talking about, Carla, for what you started the conversation about is about passion and passion in the workplace. How can we bring that into the workplace? Let's you have the great kickoff start to the conversation. So what's your point into that, Carla?
Well, I was trying to figure out how we could really merge the two, and I think a lot of that is a matter of taking a hard look in the basics of, do you truly like what you do? And is what you're doing in your quote unquote 9 to 5 or your primary job, are you passionate about it? Do you feel connected with the group that you're with? Do you feel like you're making an impact to society? Are you in alignment with the mission and, you know, the culture of the company? Is there any culture in the company? That kind of thing. And I think you just really need to take a hard look at that. And I think I've told that story before, that I had worked with a medical assistant that was always, I don't like that they do this and I don't like that they do that. And she was just the most negative person to be around. Sandy would have choked her. You have to literally just have to put a stop to it because it starts to affect your day. And I said, you seem to be very unhappy. Maybe this isn't the right place for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But you'll have to recognize.
Yeah, I think
what
you
did
have
she
to
say?
take a hard look at that.
Yeah, what did she say to you, Carla?
Oh, she said to me, "What, are you telling me I should quit?" I said, "You need to decide what works best for you, but you're unhappy when you come in here, and you're telling me you're unhappy. And you're not in alignment with this and this, you know, this procedure and how they do this and how do they do that." I mean, we never even got into the philosophy of the company. It was every procedure was just not done the right way, or they don't do this and they don't do that, you know? It's like, if you're not in alignment, you're just walking in the door with that negative umbrella over you. And sometimes you just have to stop and say, am I exactly where I need to be?
Right. Lisa?
Yeah, that's I think that's a tough spot for people in general, because I think people tend to get in a rut of, I'm just doing my thing and, you know, not really thinking about what they're doing, and does it align with their goals in life and, you know, their personal missions. And you know, sometimes I think you have to take a stop and just say, you know, I need to think about where I am and where I want to be, and like Carla said, does it align with who I want to be and where I want to be?
Well, it kind of reminds me of what Brian has said, that initially I thought that, you know, it's kind of a harsh thing to say that a company really isn't in the business to make you happy. And to some extent, there is some truth in that. I do believe that a company needs to foster a positive culture and a great work environment and all that. But it's not like the be all to fix all. You've got to come in and do a soul searching and a mind dump of where you stand, and is it in alignment with where you are and where you want to go in life. I see so many people that are like, I ran into I followed her on social media, but we went to school together, and I mean, we graduated in 1980, and here she is, she's my age and a nurse, and she's going, thank God I only have 2 more years to work. I cannot imagine being in a place that I would be saying, I only have 2 more years to work. I only have 555 more days, and there are day counters out there. How miserable of an existence is that?
Well, they've done some research in the States, Carla, and they have found that about 60 to 70% of most people, are you ready for this, hate their job.
Oh, I know. I can believe it.
I think that's really, really sad, because adults spend most of their life, certainly most of their adult life, at work. Mm-hmm. So if you hate your job, that means by and large, you hate your life. What kind of an existence is that? Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, when I practiced, and I practiced in a couple of different offices, but when I worked mainly with my dad, we always had fun. And we always, because we liked each other and we wanted the best for the patients, and we all got along, and, you know, it was a team, and it really was a team. We helped each other. But when my dad passed away, and my brother and my dad's partner was still running the practice, and then they decided they wanted to not work as much as they were working. And so they sold the practice to those 2 young dentists. And as I told you, one of them was an ostrich, like he never wanted any kind of confrontation. And the other one had an anger management problem. And he was just not fun to be around. And I really wasn't enjoying my job anymore. And so I said to myself, it's enough. We're out of here. Yeah. And I told him I was going to leave. And of course, he looked at me and he said, you can't do that. And I said, watch me. And I walked out the door. I mean, I had to take care of myself. I wasn't having fun. It was stressing me out. The patients were all getting stressed. Some of them were phoning me at home. And of course, I couldn't really say much, because you can't really do that. Right. So I just said, well, you know. It
was time to go.
Yeah, it's time to go. Because a lot of them would phone me, I went to get my teeth cleaned and you weren't there. And I said, I don't work there anymore. Well, why not? I said, well, because I've got a new job now.
Well, I ended up doing that 2 years ago when I had patients that found out that I wasn't working there anymore. I had them reaching out to me on social media, and I just said it was just time to go. It was time for, you know, I'm not going to go into it because I was going to leave a professional. I'm not going into it, but it was the best thing that I could do.
Sometimes you just have to do that, Carla, to save yourself, you know, seriously, so that we get saved. And I had to move on. I had already started the soft skills business, and I just thought, well, you know, I can just focus on this. I don't need that.
Yeah. Well, I had mine going too, and I little did I know it was going to become my plan A, but it's been the best thing that ever happened in my life.
Well, what I tell people is I don't really miss cleaning teeth. What I do miss is my patients, and I do miss being with the colleagues that I liked. And, you know, seeing them at conferences and different things that I don't go to anymore. But it's just a matter of, I was just not enjoying what I was doing anymore, because this guy was just so horrible. He was horrible to everyone. I told you, the receptionist was in tears 2 or 3 times a day. He turned over his dental assistant about every 3 months because she couldn't stand working with him anymore. I mean, what kind of nonsense is this? And I told you, the first thing he said at the very first staff meeting, and I was sitting beside the other hygienist, and she left very shortly after. I said, I want you to picture every new patient who comes into this office carrying 2 suitcases full of cash. She just looked at me and she went, I'm out of here. Because if that's his approach, because it had never been the approach of my dad or my brother or my dad's partner, or that had never been our approach. Our approach had always been, what can we do for the patients to make them happy and keep them comfortable and keep them healthy and all those kinds of things. It was never about money. Yes, we did some procedures they had to pay, of course, but it was never about the money. It was more about keeping the patients safe and keeping them healthy and educating them about how to take care of themselves at home so that their bills would actually be less. And maybe they wouldn't end up with the need for so many procedures, whatever. So it would save them money if they would do the things that we taught them how to do. But it's just a matter of, he was just not fun. He was just nasty. He was nasty to everyone. He actually phoned my husband one night and said, you need to get in here because, I looked at your x-rays. And well, my husband wasn't his patient. He was my brother's patient. And there was no reason for him to be calling him and telling him he needed things. And in fact, he didn't. So, it was nonsense because the crowns that are in my husband's mouth, my dad put in. My dad was a fabulous dentist. He had patients that if they were on holiday and something happened and they came back in, oh, the dentist I saw said, "Who's your dentist? These are fabulous crowns." So,
That's quite the compliment.
Yeah. Well, my dad had a lot of dentists as patients, Carla.
They came to him. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So, it's what you get used to. And these guys, the two of them, were not that good. Their dentistry wasn't that good anyway. So I wasn't comfortable working with them altogether. So I just decided, you know what, it's enough. I'm done here. And I started working for another dentist part-time. I actually took a contract job because his hygienist was on mat leave. And so I just worked for him until she came back, and then I quit. But it's just a matter of, again, like, why are you working at a job that you hate? What the heck is the point of that? And besides, as we all know, the kind of stress that you're bearing is very, very hard on your body. You're going to end up with irreversible physiological damage. And as I said to Lisa yesterday, these people that go on stress leave, and we know that there are people who end up doing that, sometimes they never come back. But if they do come back, they come back diminished. They never work at the level they worked at before, and they're more likely to have to go on stress leave again. So, why are they putting themselves in that situation? It's just so crazy. Find a better job. Surely there's something better out there for you. Don't keep coming and putting yourself in that situation. It doesn't make any sense. It's so much more fun to go to a job that you have passion for, that you enjoy, that you look forward to, that you look forward to the people that you work with, and you look forward to seeing your clients or your customers or whatever, and that you have fun and that you enjoy what you're doing and you feel good about what you're doing. Why wouldn't you want to have a job like that? To me, it just doesn't make any sense at all. And when you are passionate and have energy about what you're doing, it engages people and it attracts them and it's contagious. So, it's just a matter of, what the heck are you doing? And if you don't really like what you're doing, then you need to find something that you do.
A lot of people don't believe that a job that you can take your passion to even exists.
That's right, Carla. And sad for them. That's just sad. Just terribly sad. Because there are a lot of jobs out there. I don't care what you do. There's no reason why you can't enjoy what you do, be passionate about what you do, and be delighted at the outcomes that you get because you are so passionate about it and you work so hard to help your clients or your customers or whatever. And when they're happy, you're happy because, look what I did for them and they appreciate it. And, it's a win-win for everybody. It's one of the reasons that my sweet little husband is still working. Yale is 82 years old. He's still practicing law. Why? Because he enjoys it. And it gives him something to do and it keeps his brain working because he's got to be solving problems. So, he has to do this stuff. So it keeps his memory sharp and it keeps him sharp. And he has always enjoyed practicing law. And so for him, it still gives him something to do because, a lot of his friends give him a bad time. How come you're still working? How come you're still practicing? And I get it from all my friends because most of my girlfriends were teachers and they're all retired now. And they look at me like I'm completely nuts. Why are you still working? Yeah. And I tell them, I said, you know what? The morning I wake up and go, oh my God, I've got to do another workshop. I said, then it's time to quit. We're done.
Yeah, right.
So it's a matter of, what are you doing? I love what I do. I just find it so interesting and so fascinating and so challenging. And I do a lot of research, which helps me to continue learning, looking for different kinds of exercises and games that I can put into the programs. and making sure that the information I'm giving is up to date.
Mm-hmm.
Different topics that I teach. So I do a lot of research all the time. And of course, I blog on 3 different sites. So I'm always writing stuff. And all these things are good for an old brain. It keeps it sharp. It helps me to remember things and, all those sorts of things. And again, I love what I do. I just find it so interesting. I have learned about so many different industries.
Mm-hmm.
I've met lots of wonderful people, and I've helped people. And because they're happy, oftentimes they refer other people to me, or I get repeat business from the companies because they're happy with the programs I have created for them. And that makes me feel good, because then I know that I'm really helping them, and they're happy because they're getting the help. And when their people actually, and you know this, Lisa, when the people actually start using the stuff they've learned in these workshops, it's a win-win for everybody, because then it's a great ROI. But the only way that you can make sure that that happens is, as I said, you've got to give them exercises that resonate. It's got to be stuff that makes sense to them. And that's why I always ask the HR person to give me the scenarios that they've struggled with. And then, I will put together different kinds of strategies. And then I give them the things that they're familiar with. Because I told you, people come up to me, how did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
Because I've said to HR, I said, I could make up stuff. But I said, if it doesn't resonate and it doesn't make sense for them, then they're not going to be likely to start using this stuff. They have to see why they're learning it and why it would be a good idea to start using it. And
right. They'll connect to it. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So if you do that, everybody wins. And it's just a matter of figuring out a way so that can happen. Because adults learn when they see a need. And if they see that, this is something that's actually going to help them, oh, look at that, got a different outcome, hoo-ha. So then the next time they have a similar situation like that, they will actually use what they just learned. Some of the law firms that I went into, and I came back years later, and some of the staff would come up to me, I'm still using that stuff you taught me. It's just,
That's
wow.
Great. That's very satisfying.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really funny, but that's okay. It's a matter of again, when you provide people with things that are beneficial to them,
Mm-hmm.
then you win and they win and they're happy and you're happy that you helped them. I mean, it's just a matter of what are we doing? I mean, if we can't be happy, then we're probably not doing the right things. Mm-hmm. It's just, it just doesn't make any sense to be going to work and being frustrated and unhappy and, so on and so forth. And I mean, I only had that for that short period of time with that one horrible dentist. But other than that,
it's horrible to have that Sunday night when you're like, the Sunday night, Monday morning blues. It's like, oh, I have to go to work tomorrow.
Exactly.
And just every morning going, oh, is it time to get up for work again? Is it Friday yet? It's when you love what you do, whether it be on your own or you're working for a company, you forget that it's Friday. You go, oh, tomorrow's Friday already?
Right.
You honestly do. And people think, oh, yeah, you're nuts. And I'm not. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
It is true. When you love what you do, you don't care what day of the week it is.
No.
Right.
I mean, I even sometimes work weekends, Carla, because it just sort of,
Why did you?
Yeah.
The universities, because a lot of times their PD days and their conferences are on the weekends because during the week everybody's teaching, so they can't take time off to go to things. So a lot of times I do stuff evenings and I do stuff weekends.
Uh-huh.
So it just depends on, what group of people you're dealing with and what their time frame is. In a lot of companies, they'll put aside time. You can do lunch and learns, or they'll even give you a morning or an afternoon sometimes to do stuff. But it just depends what people do. And, I don't care. I mean, as long as I'm having fun and I'm helping people, I'm happy to do that. It's no big deal. And the other thing that happened to me was I got to know the Lower Mainland, like everything around Vancouver, because I drive all over the place. So I actually ended up getting a GPS in my new car because I needed it. Because it's very hard to drive looking at a map.
Yeah.
So, it's really good when the GPS tells you what to do.
Yeah. What did we ever do before we had GPS? I tell you.
Well, I guess sometimes we had to have a navigator in the car with us.
To read the map, a map reader. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes the GPS doesn't work.
Yeah.
Well, mine does. It's really good.
We went to a golf course down on the south side of Atlanta several years ago. This is back when the only GPS they had was Garmin. And it was kind of out in the country to get there. Like in between the freeway, there was nobody. And then you got to Peachtree City. And every time we go and it'd say, take a right. And it would take us down this dirt road. And then the GPS would cut off.
Oh, no.
We must have gone
That
down that
happens.
road 5 different times from 5 different directions. And we finally stopped and asked somebody, how do you get there? And they said, you go down to the 4-way stop and make a left, and then it's down on the left. And we're like,
Exactly. That's what I mean. Sometimes they don't work in certain areas. So yeah.
yeah, well, it's whenever you need it to work, it's not going to work. When you need it the most, it's not going to work the least.
Right.
I've learned to go, in a lot of the suburbs because I had to go there. So, I would just put the address in and the GPS would tell me what to do. But usually what I would do ahead of time is I would also look at the map. I would Google map it and I would try to check it out. So I had sort of a vague idea of where I was going and, everything. So, and I usually brought those with me in case I did get lost.
Well, I like the turn-by-turn direction on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, again, I don't understand people who hate what they do. Like, life is just too short. I'm sorry.
A miserable existence.
Not worth it.
It is too short to not do what you love. That's for sure.
I mean, it's really a shame that there's so many people that are in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's awful.
Well, one of the first things that you do when you meet somebody, you go to a party or whatever, or, hey, how are you? Or on social media, hey, how are you? What do you do? And the first thing you do is talk about what work you do. So a lot of people don't know what their interests or passions are outside of work.
Mm-hmm.
So they wouldn't even if they could go to something else, they don't even know what that is. They can't even identify it.
Yeah. Too bad.
People get wrapped up in the everyday and the day-to-day things, and they don't, a lot of times don't have outside activities if they work a lot or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's too bad.
Or if they're looking for something else, you say, well, tell me 3 things that interest you. And they just are like speechless,
Mm-hmm.
Well, for me, ladies, it is a reverse of the paradigm that has been done in business for probably generations and upon generations. Is we put people in said positions because we see what they have on their resume is what is going to fill the need, when in fact it may not. Or they have all these credentials after the fact, like all the ABCs or the stuff in front of them, and say, hey, I got a doctorate, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. Well, for me at least, I want to do a reverse dynamic of that. I truly believe if we get to know the people on the front end of things, find out what their passions, missions, principles, and everything that stands within them, number one, but also stands within the organization too, because if there's that alignment right from the very get-go, you can work better with somebody than what's not there. And see, I even believe the things that are in commonplace or in alignment that's more there for you guys to share and to build upon, great, go for it. I have no problem with that. But when it comes to the things that are not in alignment, that are not there, those can still be building blocks to a ticket and recipe for success that you can say, hey, you may not have this skill set yet, but let's get there. And everything like that. And see, let that be chosen by the individual. It shouldn't be dictated by the organization, shouldn't be dictated by upper level management or supervisor. To me, that dynamic that really stifles creativity and the passion that you really want to be given to the organization. Because If it's like what John C. Maxwell says in his great book, The 21 Different Laws of Leadership, let the best idea win. And if that best idea comes from you today, Carla, and it works very well today, then we'll go to Lisa and say, hey, what's your idea for this week? The same thing with Sandy, what's your idea this week? Then the momentum starts to carry and starts to build. And once everyone gets involved in that, I truly believe there's something that we can't do. And it's like what I said on yesterday's call. If we create better environments, we will get better results.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No question about it, Chris.
Exactly.
And as we've mentioned many times before, when you walk into a store or an establishment that has a poisonous culture, you can feel it. I mean, you absolutely can feel it when you walk in. And the opposite is true. You walk into a place where the people get along and they have fun and, you know, everybody's happy. It feels good in there. You want to stay there because it feels nice. So, you know, what are you creating? You know, what are you doing? And I know Brian said that it's not the job of the business to make people happy. But the truth is, if your employees are happy, they're more productive, they're more creative, and they're far less likely to leave. And we all know that turnover is very expensive. So if you have a culture that makes your employees feel good, then you're going to have a far more successful business because you'll have very little turnover. And as I also said, when people are proud of where they work and proud of the things that they're offering to you, they're going to provide good customer service. You won't need to worry. So it's a matter of what are we doing?
Responsibility. So yes, I can understand from Brian's perspective that you should not think as an employee that, well, you're supposed to be making me happy and I'm not happy. It's all about you making me happy, not me being happy.
Right. Exactly.
You're the one that has to make all the changes, not me. I'm going to sit here and wait for you all to make all these changes. It's a matter of we have to some extent, have that positive culture. And the employee has a responsibility too in what attitude they choose to bring into the workplace every day. And if you don't feel aligned with the culture, it's time to wake up and decide what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Time to leave.
Right. Because I think you can't get let go because of your attitude.
Yeah.
Exactly.
At a right to work state.
Yeah, I think employers have a responsibility, just like they have a responsibility to ensure that their employees are safe. I think they have a responsibility to ensure that their atmosphere is one where people can be who they are, and can flourish. I mean, if they can't flourish, if they can't be who they are, and they can't flourish, they can't be happy, then, you know, like Sandy said, you can feel that atmosphere and it's negative. It's a negative atmosphere, and it not only affects the business or the profits, it affects the people around them, which in turn affects the profits. So it is, I think, an employer's responsibility to ensure that atmosphere is available, that they're allowing for that atmosphere to be a positive one. Yes, it's not their goal or their purpose, of course. And I agree with that. But I think just like businesses want to make sure that their products are quality, they want to make sure by law, they have to keep their employees safe. I think it's a responsibility of an employer to ensure that atmosphere is open and honest and something where an employee can have a good, positive experience.
So Lisa, on that point, how do we get there as leaders in organizations? How do we actually fulfill on that promise of doing that?
So I think, one, you have to have set expectations. As an employer and leaders, we have to set expectations, but we also have to lead by example. And so, if we don't lead by example, then we're setting the wrong tone. And so leaders, employers, they have to set the tone. And part of that is with expectations, right? That we're not going to allow people to treat each other negatively. We're not going to, because if you don't set those expectations, there are going to be the wrong people that come into the atmosphere. And those wrong people, because they're negative or have the wrong attitude, or are treating people wrong or whatnot, they're going to create that atmosphere that's negative, or they're going to add to the atmosphere that is going to affect other people. So I think you have to set expectations with your policies and procedures and so forth, but then you have to bring in the right people. And then you have to train your leaders. You have to train them to cultivate atmosphere that goes with the policies and the expectations that you have set forth. Otherwise, you're just, it's going to be a free for all, or you're going to end up in a situation where one toxic person can really affect. It's like one bad apple can affect all the apples in the pile, right, in the bushel. So if you don't do something with that bad apple, and I hate using that word or that term, but if you don't do something with that apple, if you've allowed it in the first place, right, then eventually those other apples are going to be tainted.
Going to be rotten too.
Right, exactly. And either they'll leave because they're not happy, or they're just going to keep being unhappy, and that will eventually, it spreads like wildfire, really. It can, because, people are unhappy. They don't, they're not being the best that they can be.
For sure.
Definitely, those, in my opinion, those are the things that you at least need to start with, or you need to get to if you haven't started there, and there's something there that needs to change. Because there are great workplaces out there, and a lot of times in the workplace you have units. Certain units work really well with each other, but other units aren't so great. And so you got to start kind of peeling away the layers and finding out where are the issues and what do we need to do to make it better.
Well, sometimes you have to let people go if they're really causing a lot of trouble and they're not. So you sometimes just need to say goodbye. And sometimes by doing that, it'll turn things around. It's just a matter of, if they're not happy anyway, then why are they staying and making everybody else unhappy? Because negative people they depress everybody else. It's just it's not fun to be around them. But positive people bring a different approach to things. And that's why it's definitely up to the leadership of any organization to commit to a really good culture, one that's respectful, so that people are nice to each other, one that is encouraging and supportive, giving them opportunities from time to time to enhance the skills they have, or even learn some new ones. And when you do these kinds of things, people feel appreciated. Boy, they're making an investment in me. They must think I'm good. So, I'm gonna work hard at this, whatever. And it's just a matter of, how are you treating your people? Yes, it's not the job of the organization to make everyone happy, but there are certain things that you can do that will result in that happening. And when people are not cooperating and are not getting in line with what your view is in terms of how the behavior should be, then sometimes you just have to let them go. Just, it is what it is. You can give them, let them have a little talk with them and say, you may not realize this, but when you do such and such, it makes everybody else feel uncomfortable. And you got to pay attention to this. You got to stop. So you give them a chance. But if they don't change, we're done. Bye-bye. It affects everybody else. And, that's why what happened in that dental practice is he lost a lot of patients. And he tried to blame it on my brother, because of course they did it. They went back to where my brother was practicing. And they went to a lawyer. And the lawyer said, you can't make people stay with you if you aren't dealing with them in the way that they want or they expect. And because Dr. Waterman was their dentist for 25 years, they're going to go back to him. It's not his fault. He didn't invite them to come to him. They wanted to go back to him. So you can't blame him. You can only look yourself in the mirror and go, what have I been doing to be pushing all these people away? And they lost a lot of the staff too. I wasn't the only one who left. So, it's just a matter of stepping back and having a look at what's going on here. What is going on here? Well, this guy was, scaring everybody away and annoying everybody. And so he was destroying the practice. And it was a very good practice. So it was sad to see. But my brother profited. In fact, Dave used to phone me and go, "Why are you still working for them? You're helping them, and they're idiots." And I go, "Okay, Dave, fine. I'll leave." And I did. And, he was giving me a really bad time. And he was right. I mean, I wasn't enjoying it, and neither were the patients. I told you, patients were phoning me at home, and I just didn't know what to say to them. I just really didn't know what to say.
Right.
Wow.
And, so they would ask the receptionist where my brother was. And that's why they started going back to him, even though, I mean, his office was way in the south end of town. And then he moved to downtown. So it wasn't like the offices were close together or anything. They weren't. But where he was very easy to get to with transit, because the building he was in, transit came right into. We could just, take transit and get off the transit and come upstairs and get on the elevator and go up to his office. It was a piece of cake. So, it didn't matter where you were. You could just get on the train and get to his office very easily. But it's just a matter of, why would you do that? Why would you push people away like that? Why would you be so mean to your patients and so mean to your staff that everybody's leaving? Just, could you not step back and see what the heck you were doing? And I told you, ultimately he left and he went and practiced with one of my brother's classmates. And Dave phoned me and said, "You won't believe this. He's practicing with so-and-so." I said, "Well, so what?" He says, "Yeah, well, he's got an anger management problem too." I said, "Oh, good. Maybe they'll kill each other."
Oh, geez.
Peas in a pod.
Yeah. But I mean, how could you even keep patients when you were behaving in that manner? Because patients are uncomfortable. If you're nasty to your assistant or to your receptionist, it makes them uncomfortable.
Especially in front of the patients.
Yeah. I mean,
it really does affect the patients. I mean, my dentist is so nice, and she genuinely acts like she really wants to get to know her patients. My husband and I talk about it all the time, about how she takes such a genuine, or seems to take such a genuine interest in us.
Mm-hmm.
And it sits with you. It stays with you. You think about that, and it's definitely, she's actually, the main dentist is the daughter of the original dentist. And the original dentist was a nice guy, but he was definitely more focused on the money, because he would double up patients and you would wait for hours, because they had sometimes like 3 people set up at the same time. And it was crazy. When she took over, he retired and she took over, it totally changed in regards to that. We hardly ever waited anymore, long periods of time. And he was nice too, but she was definitely much nicer. And so it really made an impact on the patients. At least it did us. So it definitely makes a difference.
Well, I once worked for a guy for 12 years, actually. And he was a very nice guy. He was a very good dentist. And his daughter joined the practice. And it was terrific. I mean, it really was, because Susie had the same kind of personality as Peter. And so, no staff left. Everybody was still, the same. Mm-hmm. And patients were very happy. So, and she also was a very good dentist. So it just depends, Lisa, on the situation. And that practice thrived. I think Peter has now retired, but Susie, took over the practice and did a really good job, because she also was very interested in the patients, and Peter always was. So there was never an issue, and it was never uncomfortable working there. I always enjoyed. My brother worked there for a little while too, when he first, whatever. So it's just a matter of, again, what are you doing? And if you can't create an environment that makes people comfortable, then you're not going to have a good organization, whatever it is, because...
Well, if you're going to have turnover right and left because people are unhappy and you don't have a positive culture, it's costing them time and money, and you're not going to make a profit.
Right.
Right.
So,
and really how you treat people is really your brand, and eventually your brand gets out in the community. And if your brand is not even in manufacturing, if your brand is not a good one, the brand will speak for itself, either way, good or bad. And so people will either want to really come and work for you, or they really won't want to come and work for you. And, that says a lot. And like I said, it gets out in the community because people talk, and that is the best or the worst marketing that a company can have is their brand and how they treat people. And so you can do it this way or the other way, and doing it the way that makes people feel good only works better in the end for the bottom line of the company, because people will want to work for you. They won't want to leave. And they want to work harder for you. It's
Exactly.
Right.
the way it is.
How you help
And,
people
and,
feel
and,
good.
and that's why I truly believe, ladies, what we're going to do here, bringing humanity together, we're really invite that environment for everyone to partake in and to be a part of. Because it just takes that one person, just like you said, Lisa, that can probably ruin the whole atmosphere. But I truly believe it takes maybe even that one person that can literally light the fire inside an organization to say, hey, it's time to be positive now, folks. Let's do this. And I think it can go both ways. It depends on which way you choose to go. Do I go down the dark path forever and dominate my destiny and go to where I don't want to go anymore? Or do I choose the right path that will be the better path, not only for me, but everyone involved, and everyone, like Sandy has said, it's that win-win-win. And if we can create that win-win-win scenario for everybody, not only does the organization win, not only does the partners, now I don't say employees because I don't believe in that term, but the partners inside the organizations, they win, but also the very clients and customers and everyone else outside of that also wins. The vendors, the advertisers, all of them, everything's interconnected to each other. And once we embrace that, like I said before, what can we not do and where can we not go as an organization? And even more importantly, as a community inside that organization.
Yes, I agree with you. I think that, sometimes if the leader, or there's a leader in the organization that's the, bad apple, if you will, and their leader is not doing anything to make a change, it can create problems that it makes it harder for people to stand up to that. And
Right.
so I think that I agree with you. It can take one person to change it to the positive, and that can spread like wildfire too. But when
Right.
the leader is allowed to behave in a negative way and not be held accountable to the standards, if the company sets these standards, then it can be a problem because nothing gets done. And then it affects, and that's I think where it will affect more and more people, because the leader,
Right.
once they're allowed to behave in certain ways, in a negative way, and nothing is done, people become more and more afraid to stand up. So it becomes more of an issue. So that's why I say the expectation is number one. And so I'll start with the call to action. Make sure that our leaders have the expectations and the positive training that they need to lead with their best.
Carla?
The more organizations that have a positive, respectful, encouraging, supportive culture, then the more successful they're going to be. And the happier, whether Brian likes this or not, the happier the people that work there are going to be. And if they're happy, they're not going anywhere. They're going to stay there. So they'll have far less turnover. And in addition, the customers are going to be happy, because when they walk in, it's going to feel good. So they'll be happy to be there. And they'll know that they're being well taken care of because these people care and are interested in them, and so on and so forth. And it's again, it's not that hard, but the leadership has to walk the walk. They've got to set the example, because if they don't, nobody cares. And if they're doing bad stuff, just like that tech company that I worked with, where the leader was a self-centered control freak, and he was the one that was doing harm to his company. I mean, he had some very good people that worked there, but I told you the CFO left, the HR manager left, Lisa, And 2 or 3 of his managers, who I had coached and worked with, also left because they just reached the point where they didn't want to deal with him anymore. He was just so awful. I mean, as I told you, he sent emails that you should never send. You want to write something down because you're angry, fine. Write it down, read it, have a look at it, and delete it. Do not send it. You know, a lot of emails, they're all in caps, you know, and stuff like that. It's like someone's yelling at you in an email. I'm sorry, you don't send those emails. Because the HR manager showed me some that he'd sent to her. And I said, are you kidding me? And she said, no. I said, that's awful. She said, yeah, it sure is. And, you know, so there were so many people that left. Finally, the company got bought, but apparently the person that bought it, I heard from one of the managers, because I had coffee with him after that happened. He said, he's more of a control freak than Stefan was. I went, oh, good. He said,
Oh, geez.
I'm looking for a new job. I said, good for you.
Yeah. So I hear 2 call to actions: walk the walk and talk the talk. And if you're going to write a flaming email, don't send it.
Well,
Are those your calls to action?
well, it's just, you know, it doesn't help, Carla. Sometimes, listen, people are entitled to get mad. Okay?
Yeah, right.
Nothing wrong with that. You can get mad. And if it makes you feel better to write something down, so write it down. But
don't send it. Yeah.
No, just write it down, look at it, read it a couple of times, and then delete the darn thing. I mean, it's only going to give you more heartache, and it's certainly going to offend whoever you send it to. So what the heck are you doing? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense at all to do that. And, you know, people are entitled to get angry about certain things. That's normal. But you have to step back, especially if you're the leader, and go, yeah, what's the outcome going to be if I send this? I better not send it.
Yeah. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Yeah.
So it's a matter of being smart. And you just have to think about what the outcomes will be from your behavior and from the things that you're doing. How is it going to be received? What's going to happen as a result of this sort of behavior? And, you know, if you can step back and put yourself in their shoes and think, oh, no, I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of that. Okay, fine, you know.
Yeah.
If you can't do that, and just like I said, just because someone has a brilliant idea for a business doesn't mean they're going to be a good boss.
So true.
So unless they realize that and get some training, you know, some individual coaching so that they can learn how to be good, then their business will not be successful. And it's one of the reasons why so many small businesses fail. They fail because the person who's in charge doesn't know how to be in charge.
Right.
So, you know, it's sad, but that's life. And if you're going to start a business, you need to learn how to navigate the minefield and how to surround yourself with good people.
Yeah, for sure. So my call to action would be realize that you can have passion in the work that you're doing. And if you're not happy with that, look at what you are passionate about and do something about it. Because you do not have I don't believe you have the right to take that negative culture, that negative attitude into the workplace and infect everybody else.
Absolutely. Ladies, it's always been fun. Thank you so much. But we got to go to another call. But you guys have a great day. Make it your day. And we'll see you next Tuesday on Share and Care with Sandy. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye.